Just a robot commentary.
Before we get into the meat of that video, there are a couple of points I'd like to address. Firstly, hi, I'm Omegon. Just a robot's gone to the gay bot bar. Something about the WD-40 buffet being delightful. Second, and this one is directed to you, Serious Gamer 33. This on the screen is your audio, including bits of Just a Robot that you're responding to. Notice how your audio is much lower than his. This image is what I typically do in my videos. My audio is at the top, and the one below is the one of the video I'm responding to. Notice how I've boosted theirs on the left hand side. To make your audio bearable, I have to separate you from your own response video, raise your volume, and then lower my volume accordingly. Learn how to use Audacity, please. Another quick point I want to add. In this video, your avatar is going to change many times. The character, I believe, is called Jasper. Some woman called Jasper, and before anyone says it, Jasper is not some non-binary rock alien with no gender. And after scouring quite a lot of your videos, I can't help but notice you don't credit the artists, which leads me to believe you steal the images. That's a dick move. The final point I'd like to add to this before we continue, Just a Robot is a massive faggot. That is all.
Just a robot. I have never jumped on a Laci Green bandwagon before. Normally I talk about a Laci Green video after everybody else has talked about it. But today, I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Today's video will be on Trans Men Explain Male Privilege.
If you don't think male privilege exists, you are wrong.
I love how this video starts. If you disagree with me, you're wrong.
You know, from my angle, it sounds like you're saying that, oh, that's all they're saying. You're wrong because you're wrong and you're wronged. But if you realize this is the beginning of the video.
Let's say for 1 second that you are correct. Surely by that very logic, you are also guilty of it. And by that I mean you are guilty of presuming.
Talk about treating your opinion as if though it's fact.
Gender bias is often ignored because it seems invisible and subjective to those who benefit from it.
Yes, Laci, I do agree. I'm pretty sure you don't notice that women almost always get custody of the children.
And men get privilege everywhere freaking else. What is your point? You have got this one example of where male privilege does not exist, when it still kinda does. Good job.
Men get privilege every fricking where else. I think that's what you said. But you don't name a single male privilege. Surely to cement your argument, you would have done that. Unless, like with the audio being so low, you didn't want people to actually hear you.
Trans men have experienced both sides of the gender-divided society, so I'm gonna let them explain male privilege in their own words.
Yeah, but didn't you just pick a bunch of trans men who agree with your narrative? I'm just saying you have the power to pick who's on your show.
Let me tell you something. That's what everyone does when they're trying to prove a point. They bring up evidence that supports their point. If you want to debunk this, like you're trying to do here, you need to bring up your own evidence, which you did twice in this video.
You seem to have misunderstood what Just a Robot was saying. His point was that if Laci Green wanted to make a valid point, covering all perspectives, she would have got a much more broader sample pool or group of people to contribute towards her video rather than a group of people that pretty much all agree with each other, more commonly known as an echo chamber.
Male privilege is the bullshit idea that men are better.
By anyone else, do you mean women?
Well, it probably does mean anyone, as in women, which is what they're saying, because women are a part of anyone, but it could also mean different kinds of men that think they're better than each other and are above other men. It could mean anyone!
Admittedly, this little piece is Jar just nitpicking because he's a massive faggot, but his question is valid nonetheless.
Second, how is that a privilege? Plenty of women also think that they're the superior gender.
Yeah, and that's kinda also not what they were going for when they were talking about that.
Which was exactly the point Jar was trying to make.
Male privilege is the ability to move about the world in the way that you want to.
There is no law in America that says women can't do the same. By the way, remember what he says here. because we're gonna come back to it.
Oh, good. More people who think that just because they say it's relevant later, they have to talk about it later, and some reason mention it now.
Generally, when 2 points line up, or can be simplified down into 1 point, but it is better to address later rather than sooner, yes. I've done this on multiple occasions because it saves me having to repeat myself, but also allows me to show the absolute hypocrisy, double standard, inaccuracy, intellectual dishonesty of whatever it is I am debunking.
It's the experience of being left alone and free to be yourself.
I don't think you know what left alone means. Also, are you signed up for the draft? And have you sent that check to your ex-wife for child support?
And there's your second mentioning of those 2 examples. Good job. But you see, those examples are in the minority. The majority are male privilege examples. So you see, it's still male privilege.
How on earth are those examples in the minority when the majority of men have to sign up for the draft, and when the majority of divorces go in favour of the woman, which means in turn the man normally, usually, more often than not, pays alimony to the female? That is not in the minority. That is the very definition of female privilege, or an injustice, whichever you prefer, really.
Privilege is also like the absence of experience. As a man, I have the privilege of getting on New York City subway train at 1 in the morning and don't have to worry about a man wagging his dick at me.
Has that really happened to you?
And survey says it's an example, dumbass.
Yes, but if an assertion is going to be made, concrete evidence needs to be provided to legitimize it, otherwise it is nothing more than an assertion that can, will, and shall be dismissed by all viewers with an IQ over 1.
The first time I noticed I had male privilege was when I was walking home from hanging out with a bunch of friends who happened to be women. They had expressed being a little worried about walking home in the dark, and while I was walking, I realized that I had no worry in the world about being talked to or stared at or followed or assaulted.
Oh, so you felt more safe. Well, guess what? Men can be assaulted too. In fact, men are more likely to get assaulted. Also, if you're walking around like this, you're going to get the shit beaten out of you.
Okay, part 1. You realize that those statistics are from 2003. 13 years ago. And from my look, it looks like they're declining. I know that's still men are higher, but you don't know. They got closer after a little bit, and they might have actually crossed. And second, yeah, perpetuate the stereotype that you look like a dumbass on the streets and get your ass kicked. Good idea.
Not to worry, I've included the 2012 FBI statistics on violent crime in the description. They do show that crime is on the decline, yes, but male victims still outweigh female victims. You cannot downplay this, which is what you have tried to do, by the way. And again, using the word might, you assume too much. If you want to give a good rebuttal to just a robot, might I advise you get the evidence to debunk him, rather than respond with nothing but assumption. It is embarrassing, and I will admit, this is the second worst response video I've ever seen done to just a robot. The first one was actually the one I wanted to do, but I was told I was not allowed to, because all I could do for 5 minutes was laugh at how bad it was. Guy sounded like he had a dick in his throat.
So a man could just walk down the street and no one is going to bother him. No one's going to ask him to smile. No one's going to ask him where he's going. No one's going to ask him if he's married. No one's going to ask him if they can walk with him. But this is something that I know women experience every day.
Have you experienced it?
Oh no, really? A trans man has experienced this? You know, being from both sides of the gender, I think he would've.
You know, I hate to be the person that repeats himself, but my last point seems to fit here as well. You assume just a robot was being sarcastic. You took him very, very literally, because you're clearly a very pedantic young man.
Can you prove that women experience this? And by the way, someone saying good morning to you is not someone sexually harassing you.
Hello, I'm the guy who actually watches the frickin' video. There is no evidence that they said saying good morning is a bad thing. They said walking with you and asking, you know, go on a date or something, or asking if you're married is a bad thing. It's called fact-checking, stupid.
You're quite right. In the video, they never actually said it. However, it is a very common talking point. You could even regard that as reductio ad absurdum if it wasn't for the fact that it has in fact come up on multiple occasions.
Post-transition life, my god, walking down the street is so glorious, I can actually think.
I love how sexist that sounded.
Okay, now I'm seriously doubting that you actually watched this video. I'm thinking you watched it.
Before you even finish that thought, you are aware that you just accused him of not watching it, only to then conjure up a scenario where he did in fact watch it.
And said, hey, these things can be twisted in a way that makes me sound smart and them sound stupid. And then you just made a video around it. Which is, as I'll be told, not the way to make a video.
Oh, jolly good. I don't need to tell you then. Saved me a few extra seconds.
First time I ever experienced male privilege was on social media. I've always been the type to express myself and talk real crazy. And when I did it prior to transitioning, it wasn't okay. But the minute that I transitioned and everybody looked at me as that male figure, it was like, oh man, that's hilarious. I'm like, hey guy, I've been hilarious all this time. So what are you talking about?
So you're saying you experienced this on social media? Interesting. Did you know you don't have to be trans to change your gender on social media?
Interesting. Did you know that this is an actual story that can't be changed and actually makes sense? You know, because he wasn't lying about his gender, as you're going to say, and he was discriminated against and told that he wasn't funny, but when he became a man, he became funny automatically. You see, your little anecdote here makes no sense in the context and doesn't debunk the point at all. That's normally what happens in your videos, actually.
Just a Robot's point was a very common phrase used by House. Everybody lies.
Unexpected aspect of male privilege for me was being taken way more seriously than I was before, and it's funny because I have all the same ideas, still thinking about the same things, and yet sometimes I would literally just be talked over or laughed at. Now people will often quiet down.
I know I have said this a lot throughout the video, but it's still relevant. Do you have any proof of this?
No. Your evidence is only a little bit on a higher tier because you show images from sites, but how do we know that those sites aren't altered by you or are made by you to serve your point? You know, this is the internet where we can do whatever we want to prove our points. If you think about it, your evidence is anecdotal because it might be fake.
While you are quite right that evidence taken from websites can in fact be doctored, you are not entirely addressing Just a Robot's argument. In fact, you ended up saying what I was about to say at the end, anecdotal evidence. It's exactly that, which was kind of the point that Just a Robot was trying to make. Anecdotal evidence is not evidence. It is a lived experience, yes, and we must listen to that. But that's where studies come into this, which means a lot more work has to go into actually proving that particular statement made by that one person has any weight to it. Do me a favour please, focus on addressing his argument instead of going off on a tangent, which ends up with you debunking your entire argument to begin with.
Male privilege and sexism isn't just a problem for women, but it's also about liberating ourselves. Masculinity is very diverse. Masculinity is what it is to you. You don't have to be a brute. You don't have to be an athlete. And my masculinity looks like a man who likes puppies and babies. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That is true. There is nothing wrong with that. However, in today's society, there is something wrong with being a tough man. If you're a man and you try to do something tough, toxic masculinity!
Okay, pause for a second. What? Are you making a real point or are you making a joke? If you're making a real point, it's not that there's a problem with being a brute, there's a problem with being a douchebag. If you're not making a point, what does this have to do with anything? Are you disproving them? What are you doing? I have no idea.
He is not disproving them nor being sarcastic. He is simply pointing out that there is an aspect to masculinity that quite a number of people believe has no place in society, modern society. That particular aspect of masculinity is more commonly known by SJW types as toxic masculinity. You could argue being a douche and toxic male can go hand in hand for a certain type of male, but hashtag not all.
I was in the club this night and my brothers are around. I think it might have been Single Ladies. Something came on. And I'm like, oh, the Single Ladies. Oh, the Single. And they go, you're a man now. Men don't wild out to Beyonce like that. And I said, but it's music.
How is that a privilege in any way?
You know, looking back at the video, they're now explaining how it's not cool to act like men are different. That's essentially what's going on here. He's saying that it wasn't cool for his brothers to say, oh, you can't act like that now, you're a man. They weren't saying how that was a privilege. Come on, man. You gotta give me something here to make me think that your over 2,000 subscribers are warranted.
At time of recording, Just a Robot's subscriber number is a tad higher than the 2,000 he had when you made your response video to him. And yes, they were in fact making an argument about privilege.
Do white people have privilege because they can't say the word nigga?
Okay, you know what? I don't care if that was a joke. Are you black? Until I have confirmation that you are either black or African American, I am not cool with that. And I don't care if the CC is now advocating for, oh, you can say that now because it's a joke. I'm not cool with it. Until someone proves me that I should be cool with it, I'm not cool with it.
My nigger, listen carefully. It is only a word. Whatever the colour of skin that is behind that robot is utterly irrelevant. And I have said this on multiple occasions. If one group of people or many groups can't say a word because another group who uses the word as a term of endearment between their, quote, brothers, takes offence because they think it means, oh lordy lord, we're going back to the Stone Age. Time to go cotton picking. Sorry, I got a little off track there. That accent was jolly good fun to play though. Point is, the word nigger or nigger is just that, a word, not two words. Much like the whole fear of the thing. If I have to explain that to you, then I think we'll have to give up on this.
There's no one way to be a man. There's a spectrum of masculinity, and just, be chill.
What if a man wants to be a tough guy? Would that be okay?
Like I said before, as long as he's not a complete douchebag tough guy, there's nothing wrong with loving that you're strong. You just have to not be a dick. Other men can be dicks. It's not just tough guys.
Yes. But Just a Robot was making a sarcastic comment aimed at the gentleman who believed there is a spectrum to masculinity. If we're going to be open and accept that, then we also have to accept all the different types of masculinity, which is not what one particular type of somewhat left-leaning people do.
If a guy wants to really understand male privilege and understand what it is, talk to women.
And if a woman wants to understand female privilege, she should talk to a man.
Step back, listen to what other people are going through, ask them what they're going through, and I think you'll see that the world doesn't run exactly the way you think it does.
Listen to your own fucking advice and leave your fucking hug box.
That makes no sense.
Okay. That's pretty funny, I like that. I could, if you want, and feel free to leave a comment down below, explain it to you, but I have a strange feeling it would take far too long to get through what must be a remarkably dense skull.
You're doing nothing wrong by having privilege, it's just what you do with it that matters.
And Laci is using her privilege to push her political agenda.
Okay, I know the media clip was like a couple seconds ago, but none of these arguments he's making make any sense. What does Laci's privilege have to do with what he just said? Nothing is the correct answer.
Everything is the correct answer. Laci has the distinct privilege of having a very large platform on multiple social media sites. She had, at time of recording that video, abused her privilege to push an agenda where men are told to talk to women about male privilege, when society, it is quite well known, certainly to those who argue for actual equal rights, that there are a number of privileges women have over men that make it very difficult for those men to get by. That's not excluding any privileges some men have, individual men, but society as a whole have protected women as a class for a very, very long time.
I'd like to thank all of our guests for giving their time and thoughts on this issue. We'll see you next time.
So it's pretty obvious what Laci Green is trying to do. She got a bunch of trans men who agreed with her narrative, and then said, look at these trans men. They have experienced both genders, and they prefer being a man. Therefore, male privilege is real. But guess what? Not every trans person agrees with you, Laci.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure not all normal men, like I'm pretty sure you are, agree with you. You see, there are these things called experiences, choices, and other things that you probably don't understand are a factor in how people think. Anyway, I tried so hard and I got so far, but in the end it doesn't even matter. The biggest problem here is that you seem to not understand that people have different experiences that affect their choices. And a million other problems I could get into, but I don't want to waste people's time. Anyway, this is Serratus Gamer 33 signing off.
Oh, thank fuck for that, I made it through your whole fucking video. I'm sorry, I mean, the whole point of Laci's video, and the whole argument Jar was making— sorry, try again. The whole point Jar was making is that Laci used her privilege to pick a select group of people that agreed with her ideologically, to push an idea, a very regressive idea. Now, you may not have understood the sarcasm, you may not have understood Jar's points, or his subtle little jabs, but most of his audience did. If you didn't, that's fine. People are more than willing to help you understand arguments without having to resort to calling you an absolute colossal fuckbrain. Sorry, I think we're done here. Thank you all for listening. I hope it was as much fun for you as it was never going to be in a million years for me.